Hi, I'm Debbie Georgatos, and this is Ladies Can We Talk on the Speak Up America Network. You know, a lot of politicians assume that women voters don't really care that much about military issues and military spending because, and it is true, I think statistically, that men more than women are focused on a strong military. But one of our mantras on Ladies Can We Talk is that all issues are women's issues, and we all do need to care about whether the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, and that job of the President, Commander-in-Chief, is his single most important job. We need to care how he's doing it because at the end of the day, it's his number one job to keep America safe, to protect America from our enemies. So I want to talk about something that's happening in Washington on the subject of our national defense. President Obama, through his spokesperson, Josh Earnest, announced recently, and this video is being made in October 2015, announced recently that he would veto the House authorization bill funding the military unless the Congress agreed to shut down or defund Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. What he's saying is he, President Obama, would shut down the government, shut down the military funding because of his desire to shut down Gitmo. I think that's astonishing, especially when you think about the fact that there's criticism of the GOP, of the people on the right, who talk about wanting to not fund Planned Parenthood anymore, and that's somehow a horrible idea if the GOP won't fund Planned Parenthood. But I want to start with, I have my good friend Drinda Randall here today, and she happens to have a son who serves in the military. So I want to start by asking her, just don't you find it, I don't even know what the right word is, breathtaking, horrifying, awful, that this president would even think of risking the funding for our military just because of his pet project to want to shut down Guantanamo Bay?
Of course I do. And the thing that, I don't see how he can cut it any more than he already has, because Alan West says it many times in his speeches that the funding for the military right now is at the lowest that it's been since World War II. And and the sole purpose of, like you were saying, of the Commander-in-Chief is to protect his people. And to think that you would shut down the government in order to achieve your goal, your agenda, your ideology, is alarming to me, because here my agenda, our agenda, is to save babies. And I don't want my tax dollars to go to that, to an organization that hurts babies. But yet my tax dollars go towards the military, and that's my money you're going to shut off when it comes to your agenda that you want for Guantanamo.
Yeah, I really want to focus on this military thing for a second, Drinda. I think it's, I use the word breathtaking too often probably, but in America, in this time in world history, we have astonishing threats coming to America from around the world. We have ISIS, we have threats from radical Islam, we have Putin on the rise in Russia and threatening expansion. We, America, used to be the leader of the free world. We used to be the strong military that everyone knew they could count on. And we do have this president actually cutting, as you say, Alan West points it out quite very often, cutting military spending and preparedness levels and the number of Navy ships we have, the number of all the pieces. It is both troops and military equipment, and from Navy ships to airplanes, cutting those to a point that we couldn't defend ourselves like we could at the time of World War II. I mean, it's just, you could start to wonder what his agenda is.
Right.
It begins to weaken America. Well, I want to tell you something else about the military thing that involving President Obama. You know, the military's basic job in life is to defend America. And yet recently, in fact, I think it just came out this week that we're in right now, the Navy, the United States Navy has on their website an entire new course they're talking about. They're putting it out there for public consumption, and they're teaching it to the Navy recruits, their Navy people come through training. They are talking about male privilege training. No kidding. This is like the social engineering, talking to young men about how they really should be aware that they have male privilege, and that they need to be. It's a guidance counselor, marriage counselor message to young men about how to treat their wives. I mean, does this possibly strike you as a good use of our tax dollars?
Well, how about this? How about you teach them how to kill the bad guys, and I, as a mother, will teach my sons how to treat a woman in a marriage. I mean, and my husband will do the same thing. I mean, I cannot believe that we are going to use tax dollars to fund something other than the mission that our boys and our women went into the military for. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, and it's alarming when we have, like you said, all these threats from all over the world, and then even on our own soil.
Oh, I know. You know, we have this political correctness that has kind of invaded society, and we have the government thinking they have a role to talk about marriage, to talk about how you should treat your wife. I mean, they actually had an example on that Navy website of a woman saying, well, I asked my husband to stop and pick up a carton of milk on the way home, and he said, no, that's women's work. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, sister, it's none of the Navy's business or the government's business what happens in someone's marriage on subjects like that. It may be a family counselor's business. It may be the wife's business. Maybe she needs to get fired up and say, hey, look, buddy.
Yeah, and I'm sure she did after he said that.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that we're spending tax dollars, and it's kind of a coddling of American citizens. Like, we can't figure out marriage and family without the government using tax dollars to lecture us.
Right.
It's just, it's so obnoxious.
Well, I guess I shouldn't also, are they going to have a women's class for not asking your husband to go get something on the highest shelf because he's maybe taller? Should I not ask him to take out the trash? Should I not ask him to move something that's more heavy that I can't lift? Or those things that will need Navy or military assistant training for me to understand the sensitivity of my husband.
Well, you know what's the most just amazing thing is that in the broad spectrum of marriages in America,
right,
there are women who want to be the subservient housewife. There are women who are the primary breadwinner and the husband's a stay-at-home dad, and there's a broad spectrum in between. The truth is, this is America. You can have any kind of marriage you want. It's really not the government's business.
Right.
But back to, I guess, wrapping up this segment, the problem with the Navy putting out pointers for men whether they should stop and buy a carton of milk when the wife asks them is that they're being distracted from their fundamental primary mission to protect this country.
Right.
And they're kind of feeding that idea that government has a role in telling people how to shape your marriage, how to make your relationships, how to be a good husband. It's just not the government's job. And it really takes a job away from the good mommies like Drinda and myself who actually taught our boys these things.
Yes.
We could, as I often say, we could talk all day, and we often do talk for hours about politics, but we do these videos on Ladies Can We Talk with the idea that women need to be deeply involved in the American political conversation on issues of every kind. We actually have valuable input to give in our daily lives, our conversations with our friends, our activity politically, reaching out to our congressmen and our senators, speaking up on issues of all sorts. And right now, the issue we're focusing on this particular video is about the idea that the U.S. government, the federal government, the President of the United States, his primary job is to be a commander-in-chief to keep America safe. And any silliness like spending tax dollars, using tax dollars, have the Navy put together outlines telling husbands and wives how to interact is both obnoxious and a waste of taxpayer dollars, and it really is taking away from what the military is supposed to do, which is to train young men how to protect America. This is Debbie Georgatos and Drinda Randall on Ladies Can We Talk and the Speak Up America Network. Please come back often and tune in for our next videos.